Welcome everyone. Today we have another new episode and definitely we're going to discuss on Industry 4.0. And most important thing is that I think already from Asia Pacific, many of the organizations and policymakers, think tanks, different kind of corporations from Malaysia, Singapore, and Indonesia and Vietnam, they know about California Miramar University as well as Pacific Rim Business Councils. We have lot of questions. Already we get a huge response even in LinkedIn's from different organizations. They are really interested about Industry 4.0 and how actually California Miramar University go with the curriculum based on the Industry 4.0. This is actually one of the milestone for Asia Pacific, and already we start communicating with different youth community. Hopefully, even though Malaysia has another MCO, but hopefully we will get different students and academicians, those who engaged with California Miramar University and business organizations, as they will join in Pacific Crime Business Council. So I want to start with Dr. Ali Goabadi in terms of his Industry 4.0 experience. How do you want to explain the opportunity to grow in this COVID-19 period with California Miramar University?
All right, thank you, everyone. Now, obviously, as you can see, we had a bit of a glitch, so we started some 23 minutes late. And I don't know if you can see my face or not because it seems like I was frozen. Anyways, uh, let me start from a few steps back. As human beings, we sort of wing what we know. We sort of act like we know what we're talking about, but in reality, our knowledge is extremely limited, and we just face some realities in life, and then we have a tendency in trying to sort of act like nothing has changed. We know what we're doing, we're in control, but in reality, the situation is in control, and we're being controlled by the situation. Now, some people make it, some don't make it, some people rise to the top, some don't. And to be honest, it doesn't have a lot to do with how much a person knows and more with how lucky such a person is. Oh, am I saying that it's only luck? Is it predestined? Yes, that's what I'm saying. So, why should we be getting together here in this meeting? Like, I have a toothache, and last night I've been like thinking about my toothache, but I know it's not my tooth, but it is my gum. That alone made it so much easier knowing it's like my gum that has an issue, not my tooth. Sometimes knowing what happens makes it more bearable. A lot of time, the anxiety, the pain, the difficulty stems from the fact we just don't know. And when you don't know, our brain goes into the worst possible scenario. If nothing, knowing helps you to relax. That's minimum benefit of knowledge. Now we have entered into a realm of the science fiction, right? Big data, and I mean zettabyte of data. How much is zettabyte? Is a lot, trust me. And guess what? We've run out of numbers. So we're thinking about hella bytes, right? So in reality, what's happening is everything's talking to everything, not we're talking to each other. Everything is talking to everything. I'm talking about Internet of Things, no longer Internet of people. No, no, things talking to one another. I'm talking about dark factories, right? A factory that has no light. Why? There is no need for it to have a light. There is no reason because no one's in there.
Hmm.
It's a dark fact. Oh yeah, okay. There is that guy in there to feed the dog, but they put the dog so the guy doesn't touch the machinery. But still, it's dark. You see, how do you deal with that? I mean, do you go watch a movie like Matrix, 13th Floor, and try to take that and feed your imagination? and deal with the realities that is out there, and some people are doing it. By the way, why do we need to use robots? What's wrong with people? People have no jobs. Why do I need to be thinking about McDonald's that has no one working in it? Why? There are reasons, obviously, but these reasons are not as you think. Because you see, either we like it or not, we have this rational mind, except for those of you who live in the eastern part of the world. We think, 2 plus 2 should be 4. Not necessarily. 2 plus 2 sometimes is 4, and sometimes is 1. It's contradictory. Things are happening out of our control, out of anyone's control. It used to be that we were so well designed, well poised, well structured that we knew what we're doing, what we know that you go and get a degree, and guess what? You're fine for the rest of your life. You're called doctor. Today you get a degree, you get out of the school, and guess what? As soon as you get out, you start reading a lot more than you used to read when you were a PhD or a DBA student. Why? Because what you know is obsolete. I mean, we are in a situation that no one knows. So if you don't know, don't worry. Welcome to the club of people who don't know. So what are we doing here? We're trying to put our heads together to make sense of this crazy revolution called Industry 4.0, the fourth industrial revolution. Because you know what? As human beings, our situation, our way of living, what we consider normal defines who we are. And who we are is no longer who we were. Things are changing, not because it makes sense, it's just because it's changing.
Mhm. Thank you, Professor. We have our honorable chairman from Pacific Rim Business Council, and he has a lot of experience. I think from industry, he can give the explanation on industry 3.0 and industry 4 developments. Even though we are waiting for industry 5.0 development as well. Maybe once upon a time, robot will be our boss. These things also possible. So in that situation, Mr. Holmes Turner, how do you want to share your experience with youth community? You has huge experience. What your experience in business industry? How
Well,
the youth
in my
community can.
lifetime, as I've seen it throughout my lifetime, I have seen the shift of
Mhm.
automation. I've seen the shift of economic models. I've seen the shift of trade going from one region to another region to another region because of the access to cheaper labor markets. As these are shifting, like shifting sands, people that are making decisions and people that are in control have to be able to shift with it, or they perish. They're not able to survive. Just like Dr. Ali was saying, uh, people have to adjust to this 4.0 from 3.0 because they've been in 3.0 for so long that they have become intransigent. They can't move, and we have to be able to move. That's why people in the educational side, which is so very important in this aspect, are uh, are trying to teach people how to readjust their thinking and to adjust to this new world that we live in, all the new industries. I mean, we're talking genomics, automation, computerization, robotics, environmental sciences. These are all the new industries, and yet the people in business want to hold on to the old industries. I was just in a conversation about this yesterday. These old industries uh, are slowly disintegrating, while the new industries are rocketing straight up, and people are not grasping the significance of this revolution, if you will, economically and industrially. So, as people like CMU rise to the forefront and start teaching people uh, the differences between the 3.0, the 4.0, and in the future, the 5.0. Education is an absolute necessity. So I think that what we're going to see is the younger people, the younger generation, gets this a lot more than the older generation. Unfortunately, the older generation controls the power. They control the overview of these companies, and they have to be re-educated.
Mhm. Mhm. Thank you, thank you. Thank you for your experience. Hopefully, from World Talent Economy Forums, we will get more of your experience and we can enlighten more youth community. Every day, at least 10 different school, college, university, think tanks, they are making contract with us, and they have thousand and thousand students. We are trying to distribute our contents only because that they can learn from your experience, they can learn from the academia. So this is our objective, how we can connect, how can we can integrate it with the local ecosystems. Professor Farnas, like as at present situations we are moving for the uh, next level for MCO, movement control orders. uh, Actually when a economy go for the movement control orders, so that time actually many things happen, specifically for business worlds. They need to be more resilient, as well as they need to be more digitalized for sustain their business and other things. So we are observing that country like Malaysia, Vietnam, that they are just V-shaped. They are just moving their curve. In that situation, another movement control order comes. What your observations and what your analysis, and specifically what your advice for the industry?
Yes, thank you. Hello, everyone. Um, yeah, Industry 4.0. Walton said that whoever commands the internet commands the data and the information of the world. Whoever commands the data and the information of the world also commands the riches of the world. So we are, as Dr. Guibadi mentioned, we are entering to the era, and we have already entered to the era that is radically transforming the competitive dynamics of businesses, markets, and industries. And we are just witnessing that. We are just seeing that new multi-sided platforms are rising to the occasion, and we are just seeing that they are just they also have risen to prominence that is uniquely different to the conventional one-sided industrial era company. We know that different companies like that are internet based platforms, kind of ecosystem, like Amazon, Facebook, Alibaba, and the other companies, they are just becoming pervasive across different industries, and they are just have highly disruptive impact. These are the technologies we are using. We are forced actually to adopt new ways of formulating and implementing different strategies and adopting new perspective and paradigm to be able to deal with this existential crisis. So these are very important. These are the concepts of industry 4.0 that we have to deal with them. We are just seeing different disruptive forces that are happening and have occurred. The next round, I'm going to talk about the Schumpeterian competition market and what does it mean that we are just living in the era that disruptive forces are managing us, and they have occurred, and we are just saying that different general purpose technologies such as internet, digitization, smartphones, GPS, and other technologies are here, and we have to deal with them. So this is the thing that we just different elements and factors of industry 4.0, and we have a thorough understanding of these elements to be able to survive, to recuperate from the challenges and changes, because change is, you cannot separate it from this era, from this paradigm. So you have to be able to understand it, to be able to just have a have an appropriate strategy. Next round, I'm going to talk about the Schumpeterian and disruptive forces in Industry 4.0.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Eric. You are responsible for Pacific Rim Business Council, and you are taking care of different kind of corporate ecosystems. So there is a question even from audience. They want to know the what are the risks for workers like laborers. There are in Industry 4.0. So what type of risks they have and how they can minimize the risks. So even what they can learn from Pacific Rim Business Council as well as from California Miramar University.
Yeah, the biggest risk is focusing on actions or activity. It used to be that when you said what you do, it said who you, when you said who you are, it said what you do. If you said you were a baker, a plumber, a printer, an advertising campaign, an advertising company, all the actions associated with that were pretty well defined. And today they're not. So companies are focusing on outcomes instead of activity. So if you're a worker and all you do is an activity and that activity somehow changes, you're out of work. So the number one mindset is to not think about activity, think about what outcome you need to do and what the companies do, and making sure that what you do, your outcomes are in sync with where the company is going, because two things are happening. One is technology is changing so fast. And the other one is this idea of recombinant innovation. You know, somebody creates email, then somebody creates a smartphone, then all of a sudden you have email on a smartphone. And then somebody figures out something that gets rid of spam. So now you have spam being getting rid of on email on a smartphone. And then somebody takes that and changes email. So not only are new innovations coming out, they're working with each other. And because of that, outcomes can change overnight. And as long as you're not thinking of, I do this one task, but I have to do this outcome. So that's the biggest risk, is just that everything will shift and you're in activity space and not in outcome space. The good news is you see this a lot with the millennials will come in and they'll just shift easy. Oh, we're not doing this. Why don't we do this? And they're keeping aware of what's going on, and they're just shifting their outcomes based on the flow. So, there's a certain group of people, the laggards, if you look at crossing the chasms. If you look at the crossing the chasm, there's some people that don't want to change ever, and they are the biggest risk. There's some people that will change all the time because they love change. That can be a risk too, because it scares people. So you've got this idea of these visionaries which change because it has a specific reason. The other danger is that they don't like you because you change too much. So there's this, it's a band of don't change too early. It scares people. But if you don't change, you can be out of a job. So it's like walking a tightrope, but that tightrope needs to be focused on the outcome the business needs to produce, not the specific actions it does to produce that business. Hopefully that's helpful.
Thank you. Dr. Stan Fosters, what the important things you want to add and what the important strategy you want to add for this Industry 4.0 development?
Well, I think in the simplest of terms, if you look at the various industrial revolutions, it's the main thing they have in common is that each time there was a new industrial revolution, the speed of things happening increased. It's true from Industry 3.0, back when in the 1980s, when there were only, a couple thousand computer programmers. And now, then the computers started coming in and it changed everything. Now all these changes are happening so rapidly. That is what Dr. Guyabadi said. You're forced to be a continual student, because what you know, even in one particular business sector, and each one of the sectors are different, quite different. But in each one of those sectors, they're finding new things, and the technology that's driving Industry 4.0 is changing all of this time. It's, as Eric said, it's giving us different outcomes. And so you're forced to try to stay up with that. And each time you think you've got your arms around it, the ball moves. So you have to be constantly, looking at that, and you have to look at your particular business. What aspects of business 4.0 are applicable to yours? It might be something quite different than my sector. One interesting thing I'm seeing right now in the United States is that it's all data manipulation, and it's the ability to process that data at a very quick speed. And now these businesses that weren't even thought of 10 years ago now are driving the entire paradigm. And in the United States, if you're going to be, everything's moved to the clouds because that's faster, it's more portable, it's more shareable. And then all of a sudden when that happens, then new players come in. In the United States, Amazon Web Services and Microsoft's Azure Cloud are the dominant players in there. And what did we just see in the political arena in the United States? They don't like something that they see, they can suspend things. And again, the regulations haven't caught up with their new technologies. So this whole thing can throw a society and a business sector into total chaos because we're learning as we're going. So again, that speed is going to, I personally like to have a little bit more relaxation time, but the bottom line is that we're not going to get there. That with the Industry 4.0 and then going into Industry 5.0, the data is coming so fast, and you're forced to be at that higher speed. So again, at the university, we're going to have to take a look, and it's not just one class or another class. Even in our curriculum, Dr. Guyabati has to modify that curriculum almost every time we teach the class. And that could be, and we teach it every 8 weeks. It would be hard to imagine you'd have to change your class 8 weeks from the time you taught it the last, but there might be 2 or 3 new significant developments that have happened in that time frame that you wouldn't change the entire class, but you'd have to change that aspect of it. So again, that speed, that incredible speed is, I think, one that we have to look at.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mu, I have a different questions to you. At present scenario, when Industry 4.0 developing, we are observing USA has different challenges as well as China has different challenges, and both of them actually competitor right now in terms of economic leaderships and this point of views. We are observing USA has political challenges. What we are observing, this is really, we are worried about that. On the other hand, we are observing that if we discuss about Industry 4.0, like China has a biggest inventor, Mr. Jack Ma, but he is missing. So this is the big questions and the big issues for many youth in Asia Pacific. Millions and millions of youth actually observing that their idols, their big superstars, suddenly he is missing because of is it the like China government dominations or whatever it is? There are many things even happening we are observing in Facebook. What do you want to say? What do you want to say about this Jack Ma missing and the US politics?
Well, U.S. politics, I'll leave that to people who are more qualified than me to talk about it. But Jack Ma's case, he said something wrong. Basically, that's what is happening. Remember, freedom of speech is a right. Right? Not all countries in the world.
Is it true if I criticize my system, which is not working, my financial issues and strategy is not working, and I say it's not working properly?
Oh,
is it?
Yeah, but he's only look at, he's not making money, therefore he was whining about it.
Okay.
That's what he said. That's basically what happened. And why is he not making money? Because the Chinese system is designed to not let people make money out of nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If this might be a too lefty way of thinking for some of our audience or even some of my colleagues in this panel, but finance industry is the disease, is a cancer of our society. It really not really is contributing to anything to our economy. I don't care which country you are from. At the end of the day, the bankers are the ones who are manipulating money instead of actually contributing to the economy. Yes, Jack Ma did something good, but is he really an innovator? That's a stretch. Look at what the company is doing. And he's only doing what exactly Amazon is doing, plus what eBay was doing. And why is he successful? Because China let him success. Right? Why didn't eBay take over China? eBay has been pretty big in China before Alibaba become a thing, because Chinese government has the local protectionism to keep their competition out. Why isn't Amazon flying in China? Because it should, right? That big a market and that big a need of e-commerce. You'd think Amazon would be the first company to come in. They did first came in, but then it's restricted by the government's policy. And under that climate, if you grow, you better be grateful for what you are. And he forgot that, and he forgot where he was rooted in. And I'm. He's disappeared, or is he retired? We don't know. Maybe that's one of. There's a Chinese thinking. When you are at the top of the peak, start climbing down. Maybe that's his way of climbing down. He just said, "Hey, I'll just blow off my steam for the last time, and I'm gonna retire from this point." Now he's what 60, 70 years old already, right? Not 70, maybe pushing 60. And 60 is a pretty good age for Chinese to retire, because we don't have that long a life expectancy. And if you're in the 60s, you are supposed to retire in China. And with the new population shape, I guess we have it, but that's off the track. We have a different. We're trying to make a different culture out of it. But 60 is a pretty good age to retire. That's for Jack Ma, it's a pretty good. He has a pretty good run. That I'll put it like that. And is he silenced? Is he just choose to shut up? We don't know, right? And then if you are starting to speculate, say, hey, Chinese government is so evil that their best entrepreneur is being silenced by them, I guess you should have better things to do instead of just pointing fingers at a foreign country you don't know much about. And now that I'm saying this, you probably know something about China, and change your attitude. Why is that your business? And does it affect what is going on in China's youth community? Like you said, a lot of people worship him, basically. Well, what are they worshiping? They're not worshiping him because he's knowledgeable. They're not worshiping him because he's innovative. Because, like I said, Alibaba is not that innovative idea from the beginning. It just happened at the right place at the right time. Daoko and I were just chatting about that. Who's lucky, right? What they are really worshiping is money. And he wants to make more money out of nothing. We just couldn't let him. And that's how that happens. That's, again, only my opinion. But I guess I'm the only Chinese here, so you'll see this just from the Chinese point of view. And I represent my mom and my dad, who represent basically their age group, and we're the same opinion here. That's how Chinese people is thinking what is going on with Jack Ma's case.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ali Goabadi.
Yes.
You are very good example for the youth. You are a philosopher, and this is the major question. Like example, Jack Ma, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, they're the idol for the youth, for Industry 4.0 development and this kind of revolutions. So it's actually millions of people questions, and they feel very demotivated. So what's going on? Suddenly this kind of superstar, they are missing only because of some mistakes. So I don't know, like.
I mean, I think I'd like to build on what Mo was saying. There's a reason I like Mo. And that reason is because he's very original. I mean, superstar. Is superstar rich?
Mm-hmm.
And what does Jack Ma does that? What does he do that earns him so much more than me? And I'm not being jealous, by the way, guys. Okay, it's not a jealous man who didn't make it. Thanks God I made it, and I decided that's not making it. The question is, why should Elon Musk have so much money where people who make Elon Musk have none? Who says a few individuals could be so filthy rich and the rest so poor? Because it doesn't happen like that. And besides, why should our youth worship money? Because, I mean, let's say if Jack Ma was a poor teacher, no one would worship him. Or, Elon Musk was only an asshole, no one would have worshipped him. It's an asshole with money who people worship, right? Bezos doesn't look even good. Why people worship him? Because he has money? No. So you see, that's issue one. Youth needs to sit down and think again about who they worship. Okay, I personally don't believe these particular guys that I just said have nothing to do whatsoever. I mean, they even don't know what these technologies are about. Someone has to tell them how to talk. Trust me. Okay, I've dealt with these people. At least one of them I know closely. Okay, second issue. Jack Ma is not missing. I mean, just this morning it was reported Jack Ma is staying low. He's not. He wasn't captured. He was told by the Chinese Communist Party to listen. Don't make so much fuss because he was becoming rude. I mean, you see, the issue is this: when there are two models, you need to watch out, and everyone is in between these two models. Either some individuals who own businesses control the country, like in USA. You see, we always have this thing called GDP per capita. What do? You take the GDP and divide it by the number of people who live in that country. Why do they do that? It doesn't make sense. Like, for example, just do a GDP per 95% capita. Let's see what happens. Meaning, take the top 2.5% out, take the bottom 2.5% out, and then divide the GDP. You see, the world is almost identical. Especially make it PPP, and you're going to see people are richer in Malaysia than they are here in USA. This is misleading. This God making of the rich people is really ingrained into all these metrics that are really idolatry. First of all, second, first, I mean, if you don't believe me, go and look at just the Business Insider this morning, and they said no, it's not missing because and we're talking about from major sources that he's not missing. He's just staying low. Another issue. Who owns the market? That's the question, right? Because the market owns people, that's for sure. The question is who owns it? Should 3, 4, 5 people own it to a point that today in USA 3, 4 people make a decision if a US president can and should or cannot and should not? Is that right? I'm not saying if it's right or wrong, but today 4 or 5 individuals are making decisions beyond the government, and they have that power to do so. Is that right? Is that wrong? The other model on the other side of the Pacific Ocean, so that's why we're called Pacific Rim, a nation's electives, people who are there, at least on the outside, they look like they have been elected. They decide who owns the market. And they're trying to make sure that no one is so filthy rich that doesn't know what to do with his money, and the rest of people are so poor that they have to sleep in the street. I mean, USA, the beacon of everything, go and look into the street and see people are lining up for handouts. People live in the street next to a garbage can. So the issue, first of all, it's not that easy. If a young person is listening to this, don't be fooled by the theatrics. That's all it is. Humanity and human being is about most of us, not a few of us who happen to be lucky and unethical to do what they do. That's issue one. Issue two. When we're talking about what's happening because of technology, all in all, this all about technology. From let's say 10,000 years, we've been sort of like agrarian, like we went and learned how to create agricultural activities. To today, that's about 10,000 years. Out of these 10,000 years, only 250 years of it belongs to the so-called industrial age. And when you look at this 250 years, some 80 years was the first, It took around that. Then some 44 years took for, so almost half of that for the second. Oh, actually, the first one, it took about 100 some, sorry, about what, 1770 to 1850. So it took that long. So about 80, 90 years. Then it also second took about 45 years. The third took about 30 years. And the fourth took about, right now we're in the middle of the fourth industry. And most likely people saying by 2030, we're going to go to the fifth. I don't know what it is, by the way. It's not that easy to call it. But what's happening is that the world around us has changed so that the worst dictators in the world, if you go back to Genghis Khan, right? Genghis Khan, or if you go back to whoever wanted to control the masses, they would have loved to be in existence today. The question, you think they're not? They are. They just are called different names. They are the same dictators. They are taking people into slavery. They are making people work much harder, more worried, less healthy, and they are enslaving people. So, first thing, let's watch out about this idealization of people. But let's go to what is it to me? What is it to you? What's happening in this surrounding is a change. Now, Farna says she's going to talk about Schumpeterian, so I'll let her do that. But in reality, this growth, this ever-changing environment, which what I think Dr. Stan Foster mentioned, has to do with speed. Speed is our limitation, but speed is only humans' limitation. We can walk as fast, we can move as fast, and there's a limit to our speed. But light doesn't have that limitation. Data processing doesn't have that limitation. Many other things don't have that. That's why we as human beings, if you want to go from point A to point B very fast, we want to bend space, right? We warp it. That's called warp factor if you're into that. We need to bend space because we cannot move that fast anymore. After a while, you disintegrate into non-existence because human beings look at the world from their limitation, temperature, speed, money, power, whatever comes from us. There is this event that is happening next to human beings, and that has none of these limitations. But guess what? We're the one who are controlling that. And that thing's getting out of hand. The speed in which communication is happening is moving so fast that it's changing human beings. I like to pick up the phone and talk to someone. That's not possible nowadays. They say, text me and I'll text you back. Why? Telephone calls are unstructured data, very difficult to process. Texting is structured data, is much easier to process. It used to be you rang the bell with your index finger. Now people are doing it with their thumb. Why? Because they're always using their thumbs to chat. No, really, go look. So what's happening is that speed of change is changing our way of interactions, our way of doing work. What we need to learn is how is that speed that is tremendous, and by the way, becoming independent of I, meaning no more we control it. Already we work for machines. You think you don't. Already organizations are managed by machines. You think they're not. Very soon, machines will be managing everything. The question is who's controlling the machines? And this always has been the issue we've been worried about. Again, because you call me philosopher, I have to stay in philosophy.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. Mr. Holmes Turner, so you have a huge experience as a leader. So what do you think? What should be the leadership quality and features in this era? Even I want to say this COVID-19 era. So what type of quality we need to improve?
Well, first and foremost, I think a leader should set an example. That's the most important. The leader has to be the role model. Whether as people go through life, they respect people who serve as a good role model. Number one. Number two is success is, as Howard Hughes used to say, a duplication of my efforts. Okay, so if you have a successful leader, or if you have a respectful leader, uh, all you need to do is to duplicate that effort, and down the line, sooner or later, you may not be that leader, but you'll be like him, and you will be much more successful than you were when you started. And number three is, as Dr. Ali was saying so proficiently, don't chase money because you'll never find it. If you have a good idea, you have ambition, if you have, as I said before, you're a good role model, and all of the rivers flow into the delta. Good luck, good connections, you're well financed, and you have a good idea. Most likely, you'll have some reasonable forms of success. Success can't be measured, once again, by money. Success can be measured by how the issue or the mission that you're proceeding with becomes successful, not you. And the problem is today's world, the young people, as you're telling me, is they emulate these money magnets. And if you look at these people, if you look at Elon Musk, if you look at Jeff Bezos, and you look at these young tigers, including Branson and the rest of them, they had a great idea. They put a whole lot of people and gave them motivation. The people pushed them up, okay? The organizations push them up like a tube of toothpaste. You rise because people are pushing you upward, because they emulate the mission, not you. And the sooner we get away from emulating the persona and more about the mission, the more that the success will spread through the root system. And I think that's what we have to start teaching people and showing people is it's not about these idolization, as Dr. Ali was saying. It's not about that. It's about success with the mission. And that will spread out through the entire root system internationally. And that's pretty much the way I see it.
Okay, thank you. Professor Farnas, what do you want to add specifically for Industry 4.0 and the leaderships?
Yeah, I mean, as Dr. Gubadi and Mr. Stoner explained, and Mu artfully and truthfully explained the situation for today's market in China, all the platforms that we're talking about, like, for example, Amazon, Alibaba, and other platforms are a good example of the creative destruction, which gradually creates a shift in customer preferences and just occasionally displace one technology and replace it with another technology. It happens every day in our today's life. Maybe before, like, for example, 50 years ago, that was like some theory or hypothesis, but now it's just happening and we are just seeing it everywhere in every aspect in the technology. Joseph Schumpeter saw the competition as a destructive process which all traditional and conventional infrastructure were continuously and are continuously destroyed by the wave of innovation. So this innovation is one part of the ecosystem that you cannot just separate it from the whole. And you can just, he believed that the ongoing competition in the market always display one conventional technology to make innovative ways for the new ones. And this just happens and always we can just see the growth in the market and changes in the market. This is something that we have to just pay attention, because whatever that we are witnessing today is the end result of this idea and this theory, because it's exactly in contrast with the static equilibrium and perfect competition. We don't have it, at least no more. We're not gonna survive in the market that there is a perfect competition, there is a equilibrium status, and we are just, this is an organic process. Changes happens, innovation happens, and it's gonna stand against the heavily regulated market. And then you can just see there are a lot of examples, like, for example, Uber, Lyft, Didi in China, and so many ecosystem platforms, like, for example, Amazon and Alibaba, that we're seeing that they are, by their innovations, in a way that they're just performing, operating, are exactly against the traditional market. And it's just against the statistic equilibrium of the market. And this is the one that I just wanted to talk about, and see that the way that we are working, the way that we are performing and operating in this market is different. And as Dr. Gurbadi mentioned, this is the new market, this is the new era, and the innovation is a part of it, and we have to just see it differently, understand it differently, because in this new paradigm, nothing is nothing is working the way that it's used to. So we have to just see the differences. We have to just look at it from different perspective to be able to survive in this paradigm.
Thank you, Mr. Eric. Mr.
Yes,
Eric, can you hear me? Yes.
Yes, I can.
Yes.
Yeah. So
yes. What do you want to add? Is yes.
So it used to be that outcomes didn't change that much. We talked about focus on outcomes versus actions. So most of your goal was to streamline your activities, your operations. Today, when you're talking about leadership, it's really about getting people which can help you create these new outcomes. So putting out a resume saying, I need somebody with 3 years of programming experience and 2 years of management is not as good anymore. So what you need to build as a leader is, first of all, a group of people with a resilient culture. The other thing is, as a leader, you need to create diversity. So you need as many people as possible who don't think like you do. And that means looking at groups of people that you previously ignored. We like to hire people like ourselves. So you often see companies start to grow with people who look just like each other, talk like each other. The big thing is to look through diversity. And of course, one of the biggest markets which have been ignored is women. So that's over 50% of the market of people who think differently than most of the people that are in that. You see this in China too. Some of these women have come and just totally taken over, doing things different ways, telling people what to do. So that is the first thing when you're talking about leadership in Industry 4.0, is the outcomes can change really quickly. So you need to build a resilient culture. And that culture is what puts together the strategy, because strategies need to be well thought out and well executed. It used to be you could just kind of copy and paste a strategy from somebody else and get the operations better, and you could get a competitive advantage. This day, your competitive advantage comes from your strategy. And then once you have that strategy, as technologies come around, you can implement those. So your structures need to change in leadership. Traditional structures are changing like crazy. So you might have, autonomous groups, groups that you let do their own thing to do new things, not being held back by the regular group, handling disruption. Sometimes you have disruptive groups. And then finally, it's the operations. So it used to be operations was really where you needed to master it. Well, operations are driven with a new structure, which is driven with new strategies, which is driven by a new culture. So that's the biggest thing in leadership, is think in terms of outcomes and recruit, train people who are like you, and get them to implement strategies and structures and operations, and that's all going to change quite a bit.
Thank you. Dr. Stan Foster.
I just want to comment a little bit on what Dr. Guyabati had said before, because in thinking on it on my own, I think it's one of the most profound aspects of Industry 4.0, and that that humans are on a cycle, and that the intelligence necessarily isn't. So they can work 24/7. There's no overtime. They're coming up, and they're doing things much faster and much more efficiently. I remember hearing that an artificial intelligence went out and created and had a competition against humans creating another artificial intelligence. Dr. Guyabati had a case study on this, and the artificial intelligence that the AI created was much more effective and better than what humans created. So I think what's going to happen, and we've seen it in different facets of the industrial revolutions that have come before, is that it's going to create a larger leisure. If we utilize technology to take and do things that they're doing a lot more efficiently and effectively and in a shorter period of time, we're going to have to come up with some sort of a socialization model, that how do we start compensating people for not really doing the same kind of jobs that they used to, and they might not even be able to necessarily manage these AIs and this artificial intelligence. But we're going to find, and I'm certain that this will happen, we're going to find some way to gain them money. One of our earlier situations was a guaranteed income. Whether we go to that or we don't know exactly what's going to be happening in the next 30 to 50 years. But I do see that whatever that is, humans are going to have more time on their hands. Now, whether that's going to be for education and continually keeping up with education, like we said, in a business aspect, or even a pleasure aspect, but also hospitality, being able to go places and enjoy yourself, and that's going to be also affected by Industry 4.0, but there's still going to be that human element. So the rudimentary human element factors and things of the human experience, there's going to be new industries that come up because of 4.0 and because of the amount of increased time that humans are going to have, that are going to be, at this point, they're speculative, but I expect to start seeing some of those in the very near future.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mr. Mu.
You muted.
Sorry about that. I would like to elaborate a little on what Dr. Foster just said, the human experience, and what do we do with all this new time we all of a sudden had enabled by Industry 4.0. There is a dark place that I don't really want to go, but I want to just touch on it a little bit. So before we have Industry 3.0 or even Industry 2.0, our production power, was low comparing to afterwards. And what did we use all that time we saved? We just make more stuff, right? And then we invented consumerism, and all of a sudden we're just being more wasteful. All that new production power, we just throw it in the waste. And Industry 4.0, will that be the same case? There is a big chance, but I refuse to go there. Like that's if we go there, it's gonna be, there's no point of discussing what a better future could be. That's just nihilism if we go there. So what really should be happening is we need to change what is our economy to actually accommodate the upcoming newly gained production power and the newly gained free time, as Dr. Foster put it. And the people has already been on this case for, especially marketers, because marketing is one of the most sensitive field that touches on what consumer wants, right? That's literally what they study, part of what they study. So people has already been studying this for a decade, almost 2 decades. In the early 2000s and late 90s, people have studying what is different between human experience and human spending money to save time. And in the not old but classical economy, in classic economics, that there are different layers of economy. There are agrarian economy that's just everybody just buy commodity. There's no way for you to differentiate your product. There's no way to differentiate even your service. Like oil change. Why would I go to a more expensive place to change my oil? Make no sense because I'm spending money to save time. But I would spend money to go to Disneyland and enjoy it. And I would spend money to watch a movie, and there are different factors. I don't just watch any random movie. I would watch the one I like. So what's the difference? Well, it turns out the difference for experience. When you are buying an experience, you are paying money to spend your time. But for anything else, you are paying money to save your time. Well, sometimes it saves so much time, it's not even capable for you to actually do it anymore. For example, filing your tax. Well, in theory, yes, you can, but if you have a complex income, you have to find a CPA. Right? Why is that? Because you don't want to go to accounting school and a couple of years to get a CPA lessons and do it yourself. And sometimes it's just becoming silly, a bit silly to even think some service you can do it yourself. For example, maybe hooking up your internet to the backbone of internet. Replace your internet service provider. That's a daydream. Right? And they use litigations to actually keep you out of their business. And if you want to overthrow that, you better be prepared for use generations worth of time to actually achieve that. But you can either use your generations to achieve how to hook up the internet, or you can just pay the $90 a month for your gig-back connection. So that is the mentality we need to get out of. With Industry 4.0, yes, there are still industries can be so corrupt that they keep other people's out. There are still services you would have to pay, but how do you use your time is actually you use it on experience. And on the flip side, so that is on the consumer side. So why is that useful for businesses? Well, knowing that business needs to prepare themselves to give consumers a reason to go out of their house or to even click on their website, because they want the experience instead of just get the thing done. Because there are a lot of people can get things done, not just you. And that is my take on what are we going to do with our free time with all the production power we just gained with Industry 4.0.
Thank you. Dr. Ali Goabadi, there is one of the specific points always come that industry has to adapt this Industry 4.0, especially manufacturing industry. So what type of preparations they can take for adapting this kind of Industry 4.0 revolution, even though in the COVID-19 period, what your advice for small medium enterprise as well?
I mean, I think, again, I do want you not to forget the past 250 years. We went from working with hands to a place that we don't work and the work does it by itself, right? That's what happened. Robots will do it. So we used to work, now we don't work. We got a lot of free time on our hand. Now, mode of production has changed. Everything has changed because now technology manages itself. It is autonomous. Now, obviously, at what cost? At the cost of increased population and destruction of Earth. We are destroying the Earth so fast that you cannot imagine. Because now we can do it. Why? Because just we can. So, I mean, someone who can break a tree by his hand, he starts breaking tree by his hand. And he says, why? He says, because I can. If you can do it yourself. So, in a way, it seems like we're still drunk with this power that we've been given. But let's come back and look at it from a different point of view. The name of the game is innovation. And as Rana said, in Schumpeter's point of view, innovation and inventions have a tendency to create, right, new products, they create new jobs, they create new production processes, but at the same time, that innovation and invention destroys the existing market, because if you got it different, then why have it in the past? Existing jobs, if you can even sometimes get rid of jobs, right? It destroys that, and it also destroys production processes. So the question was, so what is this Industry 4.0? You guys always talk about it, but you never get into it. In reality, what it is the ability of technology to manage the business life cycle in its totality, meaning to be able to take raw material, fix the raw material into a material that can be used, turn it into components, turn those components into end product, send it to the consumer, and support the consumer in whatever fashion that particular consumer is interested, giving the consumer the experience that Mo was talking about. So in reality, there are these processes that, and it from going forward, there is no consumer. There is nothing except data. A liquid body is a data, and it's moving through all systems. The same is my cup is a data. Now, it has duration, it has beginning, it was born, it will die. But today, there is, like, for example, your body has a map in your head. There is a map of your body in your head. You'd be amazed to see that some part of your body, let's say your fingertips or your lips or the tip of your tongue, has a lot more real estate in your brain than has your back. So if you want to know me, I look like this way, but if you go to my map of my brain, I look differently. My lips are huge, my back is small, depending on what kind of data of my body is inside my head. Today, Industry 4.0 has allowed us to see the globe in a data map. This data map has, first of all, a diagnosis, it has clinical decision support, it knows how to manage it, it knows how to go from unstructured to structured. Then it has this performance management and looks at the quality, looks at variability. Then it has this management that has to do with the whole process of this data. Okay, I need this data point, which is always active, and this cup, another data point, need to get together. Why? Because Ali was looking at his website and was looking at cup. Most likely he lost his cup or he wants a new cup for whatever reason. So guess what? All data of the cups come to anything I do to tell Ali, get a cup. And because we don't know if Ali got a cup or not, but for a while this thing will come until Ali doesn't look at cups anymore. That means Ali and data married. So when you look at this process, you see that there are a fair amount of presentation and visualization of this idea of data, how you describe it, how you prescribe it, and then you go into supporting Ali, making sure Ali buys the cup and finishes. This journey of data, Ali consumer, data of cup product, and data of all the business models on how they should come together and how they go together are the process that today this information is being used from descriptive, describing who Ali is, what COP is, to diagnostic analytics that says how we work together, to predictive analytics, what Ali could buy or actually should buy, which suddenly opens this idea about persuasive technologies, which now the producer is telling Ali, Ali, you need a new cup, man. You need a new cup, and persuades me to buy my new cup to prescriptive analysis. Oh, you should be really lucky. You're happy. And this is really what's happening in the structured and unstructured data and how things are being going from data that is meaningless into information and then into knowledge and into wisdom and later on into hopefully innovation. That's the process we call Industry 4.0. Now, so what's in it for you? What's in it for me? There are two ideas. One, we're going to go and destroy the world. It's not going to take long. Guys, go have fun. There is no war. But I'm not gonna go there. The Armageddon, not interested. Anyways, I think Dr. Foster, Mr. Stoner, and I, and Eric, most likely we're safe. Not in the next 10 years, 10, 15, 20 years. Okay. So let me tell you what's, because this world is me. As long as I'm alive, I talk about it. When I'm not, who cares? So this next issue is there is a belief that we as human beings have not yet been born, meaning we learned how to let this toy called technology do things, and now it's doing it, and we sort of destroyed the world. But very soon the world's going to tell us otherwise, like what you just noticed and you mentioned from Malaysia, movement control, or what we see right now, government control in China, or we see right now in here, our Congress moving, or what you see is the World Health Organization, or what you see that is happening, and people are talking about it, which is about global environmental control. So control is going to come in. The world is going to get back at us. It's going to give us a lot of storms and fires and everything, and we're going to say, okay, enough is enough. Let's become an adult. Question: what is the adulthood of humanity? I believe now we got the technology to manage the dirty stuff, the difficult stuff, which provides us ample opportunity to experience what it means to be a human being, to experience what humanity should have been. Always, when you want to set goals, they say, imagine you have all the money in the world. What are you going to do tomorrow? I think humanity is coming to a level that production will be managed automatically, more efficiently, and more effectively by machines. This will provide humanity a chance to be born into an adult era of humanity where we don't need to fight one another, where we can go into what human potentials are, not innovation in tool making, but innovation of being a human being. I believe there is a great chance that we will choose, rather than destroying the world, to create a world of humanity in which sex, gender, age, nationality, religion will only benefit us and will not hurt us. I believe we're getting to a point in which we're learning through this new empowerment that the technology and Industry 4.0 is giving us to be able to allow the sustainable management of the production line in a resilient fashion so that we as human beings can have fun learning from one another and doing exactly what Mr. Stoner said, letting leaders lead us to a life that is more fulfilling and more happy. So we don't have to see people like Tony Hsieh, who created Zappos and sold happiness, to die because he was so unhappy creating happiness.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Holmes Turner, so what do you want to add in terms of sustainability for Industry 4.0? And most important thing is that specifically, I do want to more focus on small business organizations. They are suffering a lot. What your observations? What type of strategy will be helpful right now?
Well, sustainability means to continue far into the future without any impediments. Sustainability means to keep things consistent as you grow, and consistency means to keep things orderly and organized. Those things are all important. So as we reach down to our constituents, our members, pretty close to 75% of our members have 10 workers or less. We are the salt. We are the main ingredient of how the world works when it comes to daily life. Whether you're the baker or the person that's changing the tires, or the people in the warehouse, or people in the factory, or pumping gas, these are the people that we represent. And sustainability for these people is to give them some kind of of consistency so that they can plan their lives, their families, their businesses around consistency. And consistency would therefore lead to sustainability. We are much more simplistic than the complications of major corporations or multifaceted holding companies and the world of big business. We're not the world of big business, but big business cannot exist without us. So we are tantamount in the future of the planet. We employ 70% of the people that are in our world. 1 out of every 11 people in this world of ours is in the hospitality business, the travel business. 1 out of 11 of every population on our planet is somehow involved with the hospitality and transportation business. This COVID has destroyed 33% of our restaurants in the United States in 1 year. So to be sustainable is to come up with a consistent long-term plan, well-organized, well-financed, to give our small business a backbone and to give us a foundation that we can build from. This Industry 4.0 has to be built into that. Without small business, we're not going to be able to survive, period. So we're here as the PRBC, as the business council, to advise and to help and assist and connect small businesses so that they can grow far into the future and sustain themselves. So that's our mission. That's been our mission, and it will always be our mission.
Thank you. Mr. Eric, what do you want to add in terms of PRBC and how PRBC can help different small, medium enterprise and the different micro initiative for adapted, like if they want to adapt with this Industry 4.0 and digitalizations at this point?
Yeah, so we kind of mentioned the premier things that make up businesses these days. Culture, that's, are you hiring people? It could be simple. It could be one person, it could be 5 people. But how do you hire and train and onboard people and get them so they can think in terms of helping you create outcomes? The other thing is in terms of strategy. We have strategy experts. California Miramar University, our partner, teaches very in-depth strategy courses that are based on strategies that happened last week, testing those out. And the same thing for how to structure a business and how to do operations. And we have 30 years of experience on the operations, everything from manufacturing to logistics and marketing and promoting, all those kind of, we knew. Well, what's changing in the PRBC is being able to put those together in packages and train them. And so you can think of it almost like a checklist. So when you think of things like when you put people on there, what is it people have to do? They have to communicate. The thing we can do today is then we can look at all the things that change. That's what makes it resilience, is to be able to say, how does this change if politics change, if the environment change, if technology changes? So for resilience, what you're looking for is these small changes that happen, that can happen. Sustainability is to say, well, that's nice, it can happen, but how's it going to keep happening? So now you have to look at what's needed. So we've gotten really good at doing that. We have to look at what happens when things change. Let's look at what could change. That's pretty powerful. But now we're looking, how can change? And that's the 4th wave of change, which is, we've talked about a lot about the technology part, but the people transformation, people are different. They're communicating different. They interact different. They have to interact across cultures. So there's a human transformation that happens. And because of that, there's an education transformation that happens. So in order to put the technology, the people, the diversity, and the education changes together, that's how you get sustainability. That's things like the Sustainability Center for Excellence. How do you manage all that? And the goal of PRBC is to not teach every business that whole huge package, but to tailor it down to give them the idea is for your 2 people, your 5 people, your 10 people. Of all those things in that checklist, here's what you have to worry about. Let's worry about these 3 things instead of worrying about these 50 things that we've all talked about today. So that's how the PRBC can help, is narrowing that big change of a bag of so much complexity that gets more complex into here's your checkoff list.
Thank you. Professor Farnas, one specific point we are observing right now in the COVID-19 period, many women, they're losing their job. Women entrepreneurs has a lot of challenges, even according to World Bank, World Economic Forums, women has more challenges. So what's your advice for these women entrepreneurs and the employees, and how they can play roles to adapt this kind of digitalizations and these things?
Yeah, I mean, I think nowadays women can play really pivotal and critical roles, especially in this pandemic. We have seen different leaders that are women, and their countries have actually uh, have worked and have done very well, very well. When you just compare the Germany with or the New Zealand or the other countries with the leaders that are women with USA or other countries, I mean, you can see that they are doing very well, and they are really trying to send a congruent message to people and try the nurturing way of their feminine part. They are good leaders, and this one is just really help their people to survive in this situation, because you can see that the confusing messages that have been sent by the leaders of countries like the USA, the way that you don't know which one is true, which one is not, the way that you don't know that, I mean, you cannot really survive in the pandemic, in the crisis situation, if you don't have a crisis plan, if you don't have the integrated plan, if you don't have the really strategic plan for just getting together and make sure that they are one, fighting with this pandemic or any other environmental jobs like COVID-19. And women, because of their nurturing inherent nature that they have, they really can just play a critical role. Remember that especially in this COVID-19 situation and the pandemic, that is happening in the Industry 4.0. One of the major things that we have to just know as the key drivers of the Industry 4.0 is the velocity. Velocity means that everything, these revolution, these changes, is advancing at the exponential and nonlinear pace, unlike the first, second, and even third industrial revolution. So we have to it's just a Moore's law. So we have to just make sure that we are catching up and we are following this velocity, and we can just be flexible enough to be able to just recuperate from all these changes and all these shocks that is happening these days. So I think they definitely can just play pivotal role.
Thank you. Dr. Stan Foster.
As I've been hearing all this, I just, my mind keeps coming back to key differentiators. And as the small businesses, I mean, it's not just all about becoming more productive and faster and cheaper, and that's part of it. That's one part of your equation. But we're humans, and we need that connectivity. We need that human interaction. So I think you're going to see a lot of businesses, and this kind of touches on what Farnas was saying, is that you could make a differentiator of your business with how you enhance that human interactivity. When everybody else is going north, sometimes it's good to go south. Okay, and so not on everything, but I'm going to a restaurant. I don't necessarily want to have my dinner cooked by an incredible robot. All right. I would maybe like to have it cooked and then be able to talk with the person, especially if I'm interested in cooking and really want to have that kind of a distinction. So again, when 1 out of 11 jobs are in the hospitality and the travel industry, I do think that, again, you're dealing with people. And so that human element, I do think that there's always going to be a possibility and a differentiator that gives us a little bit of a step back from just faster, more efficient. I think that will help. That will have an economic impact. Definitely, but it also could have somewhat of a negative psychological impact. So I think we're gonna be finding new things and new ways to strike that balance. And particularly, I think the businesses you're going to see that are the most responsive to that are going to be your small and medium businesses.
Thank you, Mr. Mo.
Speaking of small and medium businesses, we were just chatting a little bit when we were having the technical difficulty issues. Where I was leaning towards on, even in Industry 3.0 world that we just had a few decades ago, right? There are still people doing manual works just for the sake of doing it. For example, watchmaking, right? Like everybody know what watchmaking is, right? In the beginning, before we have Industrial Revolution, we had watches. People were making watch by hand, and a person's entire life or their livelihood can be rooted in that one skill. And once they have that skill, they're set for life. But even today, watchmaker is still very much a thriving profession. There are still many watchmakers out there. But in the old days, they may make 100 watches a year, and they may sell it for, I don't know, $10 of the equivalent of what that time is. But today, they are making one watch a year, and they are selling 100 times that. The numbers could be way off. I'm just randomly pulling off numbers, but the percentage is probably close. Right, 100 times of what a watch used to cost a handmade watch today. So why is that the case? Now, today we can use machines to make watch basically instantly. They cost a couple seconds to make a watch, a functional watch, which keeps better time than your handmade watches anyways. But why is that still the case? That's because there will always be that factor of nostalgia left in humans' mind. And that's part of what marketers are studying. Dr. Brown from, I think, the Ireland University or University of Ireland, he argues that marketers keep swinging back and forth between minimalism and maximism and nostalgic and innovative thinking. And the pendulum just keeps swinging with marketing, but doesn't matter how far it swings to the other end. Sometime it will come. It will come back. But even if it's at the peak of the other end, you still see element of what's left behind. So all of those, what I'm trying to get is, even when there is Industry 4.0, there will still be part of our society who just stick with the traditional role. And if you want to be in that position, you better be prepared, because you still need to adapt to the Industry 4.0 world. Watchmakers, yes, they are still hand-making watch peoples out there, but they better have a, I don't know, maybe Instagram account, maybe, I don't even know where people sell watch. Maybe they sell it on eBay for a high price, or maybe they better have a connection with the internet today to actually promote their product. And that's where I was trying to get at, is even when you are the outlier who does not purposely implement Industry 4.0, you better be ready to be compatible with Industry 4.0.
Thank you, Mr. Mo. Yes, thank you. We have to go for the concluding remarks for today. Thank you, everybody joining for today's sessions. And especially, we do learn a lot of things about leadership, about Industry 4.0, specifically the sustainability. So now I directly want to go for the concluding remarks. First, I request Professor Farnaz, then Mr. Eric, then Mr. Holmes, then Mr. Mo, and finally our philosopher, Dr. Goabdi. Professor Farnaz.
You muted.
Sorry. Thank you, everyone, for today's discussion. I think it was really interesting. We have to just pay particular attention to the area, to the paradigm that we are living in, which is called Industry 4.0. And this paradigm is not like this third, second, or the first one. So we have to just know the different aspects, different elements, the rules of this game. And especially with the pandemic situation, with all these changes that are happening outside and in the market, due to the market volatility, we have to just make sure that we have the continuous growth. And it's not happening if we do not understand the market, if we don't have the good estimation of the trends of the market. So it has been estimated that the IoT share of the market is going to be huge. By 2021, the IoT market is expected to reach $1.1 trillion. So we see that we are in the middle of this paradigm, and we have to just make sure that we know how to utilize them, how to use our resources, the limited available resources, and how to make sure that we are on the right path to be able to survive, grow, and have the market position in this paradigm. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Holmes Turner. Yes, what's your concluding remarks for today?
In conclusion, once again, going back to summarizing what we have been talking about this day, is that reflecting upon my expertise, my background, and my experience, is that we have to build this 4.0 and make it a gradual process. It can't be just put on people, because as Stan Foster has said earlier, we're people, we're human beings. We're not robots, we're not androids, we're people. And to slam all of this high technology on a guy who owns a small shop or has a small factory, it's just too overwhelming. You're disconnecting them from everyday life that they've been doing for generations. This has to be an educational, gradual process. I know that everybody on the large scale, the IBMs and the Googles and these people, they have unlimited resources that they could utilize to do these things and to put in their pipelines. But the guys down here where the real people are, they don't have those resources. Even if they did have some resources, they've got to utilize those resources in the most effective way that reflects on their business. So we have to do this gradually, and that's my emphasis. My emphasis is things have to be done on a gradual basis over a period of time, so that it could be uniform, people feel comfortable with it, and it adapts to the human condition.
Thank you, Mr. Eric.
Yeah, so we've talked about how this huge wave is coming, and they're big and they're significant and they're coming. That being said, it's not like a tidal wave comes over and hits us all today, and we all drowned. The nice thing is we can see these coming, and mostly what it takes to take advantage of that and not get drowned by it is just a not as big a mind shift as you think. It's really just that shift from I'm going to come to work today and do what I've always done to, how can we do better, not just in our operations, but in our customers and what we do. And so if your leadership and your employees are all trained to be continually just thinking, when I come to work today, what's the one thing we can do better overall? And people can even be thinking of different things. So the thing to make you to allow you to take advantage of that is just being plugged in with somebody who is keeping track of all the advantages. I know that Dr. Guyabati has people writing, 30, 40-page papers every 8 weeks and reading hundreds of things. That's nice because that means you don't have to. That means as long as you have somebody in your court somewhere who you can ask questions to, you don't really have to know all that. You just have to know that open to change, things are changing. What is the one thing I need to change about my customer support over the next 90 days, over the next year? What is the one thing I need to change about my suppliers or my supply chain over the next 90 days, over the year? So if you've got a millennial who loves looking at things, if you have people, I have friends that now I Zoom with that I used to have coffee with, and they would tell me something every week that was amazing because they loved looking at that thing. So there's lots of people that love finding this information. It's kind of a lot to put that on one business owner and say you have to keep up with everything. So things like the PRBC, that's why we partner with the California Miramar universities to have that conduit so that we don't have to do all those things ourselves, because it's a lot. Put a team of graduate students or people who love technology, or find groups of that, find BuzzFeed, or let those people do that work. But it's really not as big a mind shift as you think. And although the wave comes, it's not like the wave suddenly appears and you don't know what happened. When web services came, and we built some of the first web services where I was in there, we could see that coming 3 years ahead. We were watching IBM and Microsoft. It's like, ooh, this web service stuff is coming. It didn't just lay. Now, while it's coming faster and faster, when I helped build and still own an Internet of Things company, well, those changes were coming 6 months to a year ahead, some of them, but it wasn't like everything changed overnight. We could see it coming and we could adapt for it. But the thing that made it work is we had lots of people, a couple old, mostly young, who were willing to look out and say, what's coming? How can we do better? And not be so afraid of it. So hopefully that dials down the fear a little bit, opens up the possibilities a little bit, makes people feel a little better.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mr. Mu.
Yes, exactly what Eric said. This will be a slowly but surely progress. Just look back. If you look back at what happened in the Industry 3.0 or Industry 2.0, changes didn't happen overnight, but it happened fast enough. I think this code is from Bill Gates. Most people underestimate what they can do, overestimate what they can do in a year, but underestimate what they can do in 10 years. Well, this change is the 10-year type of change. So if you do nothing about it, by the time it actually happened, but when I say it actually happened, it happens to other people because you didn't do it, and all of a sudden you're out of the loop. But if you keep gradually keep plugging at it, maybe in 10 years' time, you are all of a sudden a Industry 4.0. Looking back, you will know distinguishedly at which point you become an Industry 4.0 company. But before that, you wouldn't be able to know what is happening. Only when you're out of the fog, you can see the entire forest. And that is my concluding remark.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Dr. Guyabati.
I think next week, not next week, the week after, when we discuss Industry 4.0 as small and micro business point of view, we'll get a lot more into the details of what it really means for small and micro businesses, because we're still up at the 12,000 foot. So we're going to get down and we discuss a bit more of this. I think I would like to say Industry 4.0 is the future and it's going to take over. And as it takes over, you're going to see the market's going to go into three different markets, mainly commodity market. That means very soon, the functionalities of a Mazda, Ford, uh, Mercedes, BMW, all of them will be almost the same. I mean, functionalities, right, capabilities of any computer, any device, anything you have will almost they converge. It's a convergence that is happening. So whatever you need to be able to live, anything will become a commodity. Differentiators are not going to be there. Then there's going to be this experienced market where people go into this market dealing with their human aspect, with their humanity. That economy is going to grow, be it art, be it hospitality, be it education, be it whatever. It's going to grow, it's going to become more prominent. And by the way, it's going to have a very positive effect on everything else, because the more we become human, the more we become educated, the less we will be greedy, the less we will be destructive. And obviously, always the third market, which is the luxury market. This is a market that deals with other less human and more egotistical aspect of human being, right? The glorification of money as a differentiator. I'm better than you because I'm richer than you. I'm better than you because I got more money. How I got it doesn't matter. And I want to show off, so I need something to be 10 times what it's worth, so you know you can't have it. Now, that market, even though today we see a lot of Mercedes, a lot of Rolls Royce, a lot of seats that are 100 times its value, or companies even like that, I think that's going to decrease, especially because of that experience market where we become more educated and we look down upon those egotistical creatures who want to show off their better human because they have more money. I believe the future is much more uh, brighter than movies make it look. And I hope that next session we're going to be discussing more to relevant issues that applies to micro and small businesses and what it means for you. It's going to be more applied and hopefully you're going to enjoy it more. But without these discussions, we couldn't go down there and tell you what to do. With that said, I wish all of you a very new and happy 2021. Stay safe. Things not going to get better until September or October, but if it doesn't kill you, it'll make you stronger. Take care.
Thank you, Professor, and thank you, everyone. World Talent Economy Forums, our target is that this year we want to reach hundreds of million peoples. And with all of our efforts and with our teamworks, we can reach this 100 million people by 2021. This is our objective. So all of your contributions, all of your energy and everything, it will be very valuable for World Talent Economy Forum, and specifically for the much people, those who have those who do not have chance to get involved with maybe the USA education system or with the American education system or European education system. So we are ensuring the people that they can get some sort of guideline from California, Miramar University, from Pacific Rim Business Council. And this is our objective. We want to change human life with proper knowledge-based contributions. So your effort and everything is very valuable for World Talent Economy Forum. Thank you everyone for joining today's session. And those who are observing our sessions, share our session as much as possible. This is our objective, to reach 100 million people. Thank you everyone.